Welcome to the trans-Apocalyptic Oasis Show. I am Marshall Eon, and this is the show where people come to say things that get them canceled. I'm here with Brandon Norgaard or something like that. I mean, how do you say your name?
Okay, well, I was always told it's Norgaard. My dad was from Minnesota, where there's a lot of Scandinavian diaspora. Now, actually, I went to Norway and Denmark, and I asked them, how do you pronounce my name the right way? And I had to have like 10 people help me with it, and I still couldn't get it. And I've been working with a lot of Nordics, in the last year, a lot of metamodern people there, people who I work with quite closely on a lot of these projects, and they're still trying to help me get it. And I think it's something like Negal.
Norgaard?
You don't pronounce the D.
That sounds like a racial slur, man.
Yeah, well, that's it's funny because there's actually a word in the English language, niggardly, which also comes from, no, seriously, that's a word. It has,
no, I know it is, but now we're getting banned from YouTube.
Etymologically unrelated to the N word, and it comes from the Scandinavian language.
I know, but you're not allowed to say that anymore.
A lot of words in the English language come from Scandinavian, like maybe about 10% of the lexicon in the English language, and this is one of them, and it means stingy, right? That's what the word means. But you're not allowed to say it anymore because it sounds too similar to the N word. So there's that. And I guess my last name sort of does, but sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why I pronounce the D, even though in Scandinavia they don't. It's also because I'm a dumb American and I'm out of touch with my cultural heritage.
So there was that. You remember that? There's a professor at University of Southern California, and he was using a Chinese word that sounds like a racial slur. He was teaching filler words, like like those kinds of filler words. Yep. And he says in China, the common pause word is that, which in Chinese would be nega. Which apparently triggered his students, and I don't know, maybe he got canceled or something.
Yeah.
He was suspended. He was suspended.
Gotta watch out
for teaching them Chinese.
Another thing that you need these days is you need like a foresight into what will be hypersensitive down the line, some years down the line. You can try to abide by the current
anything
standards.
With an N and a G in it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, now that the show's been canceled on YouTube, what are you doing here? What are you working with Metamodernists for?
Oh yeah, I've got.
Aren't they the enemy?
Aren't Metamodernists the enemy?
Yeah, the enemy of integralists.
Yeah,
isn't there like a turf war or something?
I think that there's some cooperation there, and actually I draw from Integral and Metamodernism. There's a little bit of a hair splitting difference, I guess everyone's got
what is the difference?
The narcissism of small differences, Well, I guess we could break it down.
It's not the size that matters.
Yeah, and actually just in a couple hours, I'm doing a presentation on what is integral. And not that I'm an expert on this, it's just that I was kind of confused about this. And I put together a little write-up on few different possibilities on what integral theory could be, because I don't think it should be based on any one particular person's stuff. I mean, if you say, well, integral is Ken Wilber, well, that's pretty lame, and there's other integral theorists, it's not just a club worshiping Ken Wilber. So we're going to talk about that. And that's also going to be on YouTube, so for anybody watching this out there, you can go to my Enlightened Worldview channel and you can check that video out as well. And so what is the difference in it? I guess Ken Wilber, he's It's one of the first to really, integrate all these different lines of thought and philosophy from the East and West, continental and analytic and, ancient, medieval, early modern, contemporary, and bring it together, right? Not necessarily the only one, but he's bringing it together and he's integrating and he's getting into a lot of spirituality and stuff. And some people were like, okay, so hold on. Can we get a little more grounded and to try to deal with the big challenges in the world? So we don't need all that spiritual woo-woo stuff, and we can kind of ground it in political and economic stuff. And they're the Metamodernists, But overall, I would say there's a lot of cooperation. I was recently in Berlin with at the Emerge gathering, which was very much a meta-modern thing, but there was welcoming to integral theory as well.
Wait, what's the difference again?
I don't know. It's
you don't know?
No, well, yeah. So the
Does anybody
difference
know?
is kind of just a little bit of an orientation, a little more toward the political and economic situation.
Political and economic versus spiritual.
Yeah, a little bit, but there's enormous overlap. Yeah.
So emphasis.
So I mean, in all cases, you have a lot of emphasis on developments like psychological, sociocultural development, and also I'm pretty sure metamodernists embrace some of the core, integral ideas like the quadrants, interior and exterior, and singular and plural and all of that. There is a lot of controversy on those matters.
I see. So what are you working with metamodernists on?
Well, yeah, I've got my own little project here.
Yeah, the Enlightened Worldview, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think, for one thing, I was thinking, okay, you guys have come up with all this amazing stuff in the integral theory and in metamodernism and also in game B. And I can go to most people on the street and they don't know about this shit, right? So is there some sort of way in which we could take a lot of these brilliant ideas and I kind of boil it down to content that can be understandable and engaging and inspiring to people who don't have a background in this area, that they could actually utilize some of this and embrace it.
Utilize.
To improve their life, their family, their community, their nation, and their world, right? I know. I was like, I'm learning about this. So I'm like, this shit could save the world, but nobody understands.
I know, man. You've got this whole savior thing going on.
No, it's not. It's like all of us. Like there's pieces of the puzzle coming together, right? And I'm not even the one who came up with this shit. The saviors are the ones who came up with it. I'm just funneling it. That's all I'm doing.
Who are the saviors?
You, bro.
So we met at this gathering that I guess Bruce was putting on. No, you were.
Yeah, he and I were talking and we decided we were going to put on something like that.
And it was a bunch of people talking about how to save the world, right?
Yeah. Well,
and I was
address the meta crisis. Yeah,
I was the prick that was like, I don't think we're going to save the world here.
Yeah, well, it's like I think that I was saying we're going to address, not save, or because I remember I said that we're going to address the meta crisis by finding a way to take some of the content that we're talking about, some of these big ideas, and convey it to people in a way that they can understand so that they can improve their life and they can also have a greater embrace of the community, right? Is that possible? Or is that should we just build a bunker and just go, just ride out the apocalypse there? Is that kind of your strategy?
Yeah, let's build a bunker.
Because that's some people's strategy, it is, and then you kind of need, some people are even talking, some of these real rich people, they're talking about okay, we need our own private security, and not just have the bunker, but also have a way to, have all the food and supplies in there, and, you're a security guard and all that stuff. So you can set up your own, ride out the apocalypse there. And I guess, so that's one thing one way I was thinking, because I'm not a rich guy, is I could apply for a job as a security guard with one of those rich people. I mean, that's just one. You gotta look to the future.
I don't know if I'd hire you as a security guard.
You're not a rich guy.
You're gonna be like making peace with the bad guys.
I don't know. You gotta provide for yourself somehow, right?
Okay.
Well, what's your strategy?
So your quest is to promote peace through societal understanding and inner awareness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you know, a lot of the work, what I'm trying to do is to really just take the stuff that's already out there and convey it with different language. And that was one attempt to look at, okay, we have the quadrants or the inner world, and we have this concern for, like, the not just the inner world of the self, but also the collective inner world, right? So I'm like, okay, how can we use a language that people might be able to understand? Admittedly, they have to be a little bit educated to even grasp what that slogan means. But that slogan there was, and I put a lot of thought into that with some of my friends. We were like, how can we do this? And if you think it's bullshit, then maybe we'll go back to the drawing board and come up with a new slogan. But you kind of get what I'm saying. What we're getting at here is, like, how do we convey anything about integral theory or metamodernism to regular people? And maybe my conception of regular people, they're not that regular. They're still pretty educated. I mean, I might be way out of touch with regular people.
Yeah,
I'm pretty irregular.
So I think I've clicked. I'm on your website, and I think I've clicked the religion stuff, or the religion and secularism.
Stuff, yeah. Some of that stuff is a little bit hasn't been updated in a little while, but that religion and secularism presentation was an attempt to, how could we, for some people,
tell everybody they're wrong.
Yeah, they're starting from no. They're starting from a religious background, and like, I want to see that. I figure a lot of these people, they're like religious for a reason. They're embracing religion for a reason, and the ones who want to instead come from like a modern or postmodern perspective, they are leaving out some of the important things that people want to embrace religion for. So I want to say, okay, you can still embrace that while embracing, modern, science and stuff like that.
Do religious people like still reject science?
There's like, ends up being a little bit of hostility to.
I mean, don't they go to the doctor still?
No, they do. But like, I think a lot of religious people, they tend to have hostility and suspicion to some sources without even listening to the content. Like, scientists, blah, 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 not listening to you, there is a lot of,
does that still happen, illiteracy. Or is that just like a caricature?
No, it does. So like, there's scientific illiteracy, and it's because they haven't been able to trust that source, or at least listen, give that enough of a hearing to that source. And I think deep down inside, a lot of these people, they still drive a car. No, but a lot of these people, they tend to think that, if I embrace science, I'm going to have to
give up Jesus,
reject the entire meaning and purpose of life. Like they're searching for some of that, Yeah. And they don't see that, like if I embrace science, then what's the ultimate meanings so that's the notion of spirituality. I was trying to get to what is spirituality and how does it differ from secularism. And what I was figuring is that spirituality is the underlying reality behind appearances, because it's stuff we don't really see, but a lot of times we have to go out a little bit on a limb and try to tie things together. So what ties together my life and the world into a way that actually provides this enduring meaning, whatever that is? There's related to that, the Verbachian meaning crisis, So embracing something like this doesn't mean that you have to believe in ghosts, but there is some sort of meaning there. And this is missing from the modernists, science, embracing worldview of the like Steven Pinkers of the world, right? They fail to see that.
Okay, so you're selling phenomenology.
Yeah, and admittedly, I know that word is kind of long, but there's
Phenomenological.
yeah, yeah. I like the word phenomenology. There's other ways
I
of.
love it.
I mean, sometimes I could find other ways, depending on the audience. I might say, don't you want to understand other people's thoughts and feelings, and they're where they're coming from in life, and maybe you could actually understand your own thoughts and feelings a little better. Like that's essentially what I'm getting at with the phenomenology.
Yeah, you call it reasoned spirituality.
I'm not the one who came up with that, but that term, that was a few years ago when I was with the deist community. There were people who liked that term.
Deist.
Yeah.
Okay. So reasoned spirituality. Okay. Yeah. What's reasoned about it?
Well, as opposed to like dogmatic spirituality, and it's like kind of
you're basically still asking people to throw away the Bible and embrace phenomenology.
Yeah, actually, you could definitely. There's plenty of room for people to maintain their
keep your
religion.
Bible.
There's plenty of room for that, or your Quran, or your whatever.
Well, here's my problem here. Phenomenology deals with direct experience, exploring our direct experience. And I believe it was Almas, who basically said that there were two different kinds of spiritual paths. And I believe the distinction was devotional. Yeah. Devotional paths and awareness paths. Okay. And so phenomenology, you're looking at something that's more like an awareness path, right? Like Buddhism or something like that. So it'd be real easy for Buddhists to jump into phenomenology. But the devotional paths are very different.
I don't know. Did you know that
these emphasize
did you know that
love and devotion to the divine?
How about, did you know that former Pope John Paul II got a PhD in phenomenology? You go to so did you know that there's a Catholic saint who was a phenomenologist?
There's a Catholic saint who's a phenomenologist.
Yeah, Edith Stein.
Okay.
She joined a comment.
And there's a Nazi who created phenomenology. Yeah. So
yeah, no, it was. I mean, Husserl was one of the. In fact, Heidegger was a Husserl student. So depends on. There's different versions of it, different variations. But you're right. You're right. Some like at least probably two of the main branches of phenomenology started from Heidegger. That'd be the existential and the hermeneutic. But it's a tradition that goes even further back than that.
So you're trying to convert people from like Christianity to Nazism, is what you're saying.
No, it's
I think I accuse everybody on this show of being a Nazi at some point or another.
So I guess that's the case, So anything that the Nazis did, which is, admittedly, there was probably just many, many things in our daily life or that are part of our culture now that somehow the Nazis touched. And some people have similar criticisms about the Olympic Games. Like, didn't the torch relay start from the 1936 Berlin Games? And it was Hitler's idea? If you watch the Olympics, you're a Nazi. Or if you drink, I think that, in fact, it was actually that fucking guy, I can't remember his name now, the Fahrenheit 9/11 guy.
Michael
Moore. He said that because the Fanta drink started from the Coca-Cola plant in Germany during Nazi time. So if you drink Fanta Orange, then you're supporting the Nazis.
Oh, no. I don't know anybody that drinks Fanta.
Yeah, I mean, there's other problems with drinking high fructose corn syrup. It's, Monsanto loves it. But for me, it's kind of gross.
Gotcha. So have you succeeded in converting religious people?
No, the idea is to broaden people's minds to get them to recognize that they can actually maintain their
Yeah,
meaning.
but again,
And
don't a
no,
lot
it's like,
most religious people here, like, they embrace science to some extent, modernity.
yeah,
There's no
yeah.
avoiding
Well, they kind of, I don't know if they're how sincere they are, but there's a lot of hostility to science and to, probably what I would consider more legitimate sources of information. But that's a whole ball of wax in itself. But they tend to, on the basis of just, I agree with certain sources, whatever they're saying is true, and cut off the other sources. And a lot of the times it tends to be they believe sources that are hostile to legitimate science, and the other sides that they cut off are probably a little more scientifically literate. So that seems kind of weird to me. Although I'll admit there's plenty of leftists who they have some sources that they just think are 100% legitimate in terms of science. You saw a lot of this last year, during the pandemic, of what was the most scientific thing. It was like unquestionable gospel that everybody has to stay home and nobody can walk outside the door. Right? Remember that?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't.
so
I wasn't
both
on
left
board with
and the
that from
right
the beginning. Yeah, yeah,
they pick and choose like what kind of
yeah,
science they like.
yeah,
Like the left is inclined to ignore like biological sex differences.
yeah.
Biology is bigotry. So okay. Yeah, I still think the real challenge is like not getting people to loosen their grip on their Bibles, but to like stop listening to Alex Jones.
Yeah. Well, he warned us about the gay frogs, though, right?
Right. Turn the freaking frogs gay. Yeah, which is true, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, there was some sort of a concern. Actually, I think what he might have actually been highlighting at that moment when he was talking about that was that there's pollution in these
Endocrine
waters
disruptors.
that could actually be harmful to wildlife, and some of them they're not going to be able to reproduce. Now, typically, though, he isn't that concerned. Most of the time, he's not that concerned or doesn't put that much heat on these big corporations and their pollution of the environment. Normally, he doesn't care. So he's very picky choosy in that regard.
Right. Yes.
He tends to have much more suspicion of any government doing something rather than corporations. Now, I think that the corporations, the major global multi-billionaire or even trillionaire corporations, are the ones that are the biggest challenge to our livelihood and our stability in the world.
Yeah. So like I'm looking at this study from Duke University. It's about endocrine disruptors and intersex frogs, and I can't decide if it's a hoax or what. It's using feminist studies and critical discourse analysis and colonial and racial logics to look at the problem of environmental toxicants and pesticide exposed intersex frogs.
Yeah, that'd be kind of funny for maybe some in like the very postmodern gender critical feminist studies to be like like who are you to say what if those frogs want to have a sex change? Who are you to tell them what sexuality to be? Maybe there isn't a problem with polluting the environment, right?
Yeah. This essay brings together several fields that often speak past one another, including queer and feminist environmental studies, critical science studies, critical animal studies, and critical race studies, queer eco-criticism, and feminist environmentalism.
I wasn't aware of all those fields. I'm pretty out of it, even though I live here in Northern California.
Dude.
Like Berkeley is right there. UC Davis is even closer from where I live.
How are you going to produce an enlightened worldview without queer ecologies?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, aren't you just reinforcing heteronormativity?
I would hope not. Gosh, but like I was saying, what I tend to focus on more, the things that have the bigger impact. A lot of this, queer studies or whatever is a big distraction from the things that are, like people actually need food and shelter. We need an actual, we need ecosystems to function so that we can live here. We need, air to breathe.
We can't do that under the specter of white supremacy and patriarchy. How
I
dare
guess
you?
Not. Yeah.
I'm literally shaking right now.
But I tend to think of those as, very much distractions, and all this, we got to have just the right languaging, and we got to be all hypersensitive to little, slights of, someone saying the wrong thing. Let's look at the bigger factors. And this almost seems like a freaking conspiracy theory by the major corporations to take our eyes off the ball, right? We're fighting with each other over transgender shit when
yeah, they love that shit. I can't believe this is a real paper. Contributors to queer ecologies have playfully framed endocrine disrupting toxicants as opportunities to disrupt the social equation of binary sex and biological reproduction.
Where did this story come from? Where did this come out of UC Berkeley or?
No, this is Duke.
Duke, all right.
Supposedly. These papers have helpfully tempered some of this excitement about environmental toxicants by highlighting the racialized and sexualized trajectories of environmental toxicants. So, and then it goes into feminist new materialism and object-oriented feminisms have offered generative ways to think about environmental harm from the perspective of seemingly inanimate objects, such as rocks.
So this isn't the sort of thing that goes through my mind that much, this sort of stuff. I mean, admittedly, maybe I'm a little out of it, but you can't pay attention to everything all the time. And I tend to focus more on what I see as the factors that are contributing the most to our meta crisis and rampant environmental degradation and the income inequality and the lack of, the opportunities for people to provide for themselves in this world where some people have all the resources seemingly, and some people are just struggling to get by. So this sort of shit that you were reading just now, I'm not really following that.
This is important to liberate marginalized people so that they can survive in this world.
And marginalized frogs too, right?
Right. All kinds of amphibians.
Your screen is getting all weird on me there. I don't know. This might be in the... Yeah, this would probably find its way into the recording as well. You're not stabilized. Yeah. Do you have any idea what's going on there?
No, but I'm about to find out.
Yeah. It's all right. Well, we can continue.
Hallelujah. Okay. So back to the enlightened worldview. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got religion. We've got a new methodology, a scientific paradigm. Mm-hmm. That integrates phenomenology with social, biological, and physical sciences. How do you do that?
That methodology is more, some of it is to embrace try to make more mainstream some of the things that have already been developed in recent years. Part of it is it's an embrace of some aspects of integral theory and metamodernism. There's probably quite a bit of integral theory that doesn't need to be fully embraced for this particular task at hand. I don't need to get into all of that stuff, but some of it is based on an adaptation of the Aqua model, and it's also based on like trying to scale up phenomenology to a larger community-wide or society-wide scale.
Yeah, how the hell are you going to do that?
It's kind of hard. We're going to see if we can. So the project it is a collaborative effort. I'm not really doing all of it myself, and I kind of have a hunch about how it's going to work, which is to get into the most granular way in which we can have reliable mutual understanding of aspects of the inner world, and use that, bring those together into processes that are like paradigms and then full-on methodologies, that would then in turn integrate that sort of intersubjective understanding with the objective understanding. Yeah.
It's ambitious, man.
A lot of the pieces are already kind of out there. I mean, we just need to come together and recognize this sort of. I think that one thing is that my approach is not universally accepted, because I want to think about like the granularity of how the processes through which we develop this knowledge and bring things together into these processes that can then be sort of repeated. Kind of like you have a circle of process, do this, and then repeat, if necessary. And those feed into a greater process. So it's like a circle within a circle, and not everyone want us to do things that way. You have, for example, Nora Bateson with her, warm data, and they definitely don't really, she's not into the granularization and the sort of attempt to be like kind of scientific, like I'm doing. So that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to make it more scientific. Now, one thing that hasn't been sorted out is this really a science, or is it maybe kind of science adjacent? Is it science-like?
Science-y.
Is it kind of sciencey? I think that it can be an integration of phenomenology and objective science can be more reliable and evidence-based and repeatable. I think it can be, and we can scale that up to a greater society-wide scale to actually have interventions, reasonable interventions for societal transformation. And I think that some of that would be embraced by people like Nora Bateson, but I don't think that she would want to get all sciencey with it. Approach. So
didn't she start some controversy over
stage theory? Yeah, she doesn't like it, and you do as well. So you'd be on the other side of things, I think. Aren't you?
Wait a sec. I don't like stage theory.
No, from some of the work you've done, I think that you have embraced stage theory, right? Like where people and societies go through stages of development. So she's against that. She has more of a holistic way of doing things. So these attempts to differentiate are kind of antithetical to her more holistic method.
Well, I kind of like the post-progressive approach of treating stages as types.
Yeah, I suppose. I think that she might have a problem with types as well, though.
Is she okay with any kinds of distinctions?
I'm not quite sure. So admittedly, I don't know that much about the warm data yet. Because of it, there's so many things I got to fucking learn here. I've been learning integral theory and metamodernism, and back in August, she posted to freaking Facebook about how stage theory is bullshit and colonial as hell. And then I don't know, did you join that? And the other side was Hansi Freinacht, and there were different camps. Were you on, the Hansi side, or were you on the Nora side? And I found myself on the Hansi side. It was a big brawl. And then Nora didn't show up in Berlin for the merge gathering because she said it would just be people talking about talking.
Fair.
And admittedly, we did a lot of talking. In some cases, we talked about talking. I'm not sure if we talked about talking, though. I'm not sure if we took it to that level of double meta.
We're doing that. We're talking about talking.
But then, did we do it then, though? I think that we made some progress at the merge gathering. We did some cool stuff,
Okay. What does she do?
Nora Bateson. She runs the Bateson Institute, which is a continuation of her father was one of the founders of
Institute for Systemic Leadership.
Complexity theory and ecology, yeah. So like I said, I don't know that much about it. I mean, I've learned a lot in the last year about all these different advanced thinking. And the one thing I only mentioned her because just to say that among the people who are like advanced, like next level thinkers who are like, this is what the world needs, there's some disagreement, and she's kind of the leader of one camp and I'm not in that camp, there's probably other camps that I'm not on board with. I don't know.
I'm opposed to most camps.
Yeah. But you seem to be into personality types, like.
Okay.
That what you do?
Sort of, yeah. Yes. I do personalities.
I think I remember you said in one of your prior videos, you said you had moved out of Northern California. Is that right?
That's right.
Huh. So
this is where I am now.
How you're there?
I'm in the post-apocalypse.
Yeah, but I think that in the video, what I kind of found weird. Did you said something like you moved out of Northern California like a year ago, and I was wondering why is it that you were at that park, in the Bay Area in August? Did you come out from?
That's a good question.
Did you come out there just to see me?
Airplanes.
Did you come out there just to see me? And if so, that's kind of sad.
Hell no! I didn't even know who you were. I didn't even know you existed.
Yeah.
Until you were getting mad at me for ruining your picnic.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the meta crisis, like all these problems and the environmental challenges.
I didn't even know what we were talking about.
So that was what kind of pissed me off. Well, no, but we're talking about environmental challenges, and we're talking about political and economic and sociocultural challenges, and maybe leading to a new civil war. And you're like, I just don't care. So yeah,
it wasn't that.
And we had some people joining remotely. That's what made it a little bit.
I don't know. Some people liked my perspective.
Yeah, sure. Some people it was like a hybrid event. Some people were actually there in the park, and that was the idea for me. I wanted to have more of a in-person, like we can see each other in the eye to eye.
Yeah.
But some people wanted to join remotely, right? And then we had essentially Brent Cooper, remember, and he's kind of reverted to like just bomb throwing mode the last couple of years at least, Yeah,
so. He and I were sort of we were strange bedfellows. We were both sort of just dropping bombs and urinating all over everything.
Yeah, all right.
Anyway,
he
I apologize.
Hasn't attacked me yet, but maybe that's because I'm not notable.
Yeah, you need to say something about him, like to trigger him. And
I think I said, so he just a couple of weeks ago on Twitter, Jordan Hall said, Zuckerberg, stay away from the word meta. And then he wrote back saying, Jordan, where are you going with this tweet, or even ever? And I wrote back to him saying, that event where you was on the Stoa a few months ago where he confronted Jordan, and it was a big pile of shit. He was just like, how come you won't read my critiques? And just about like, it's just fucking stupid shit, right?
What happened?
Yeah. So Peter Lindbergh didn't even actually publish this video, but they had a debate between Brent and Jordan, and it was pretty freaking stupid. It wasn't even, it was supposed to be an anti-debate, but it was just Brent going, how come you haven't read my critiques? And then Jordan's just like not even saying anything.
Jordan's like, who are you?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But anyway, so the fact that we did have some people joining remotely, including him, that kind of changed the tone of the event. I wanted it to be more like we're looking each other in the eye here. We're all at this park, and we can have this sort of like, thoughtful sort of. From my perspective, my approach is to be, I want to be like sometimes forceful, like in terms of like we need to wake up and realize what's going on here, but not in sort of an Antifa sort of way or an SJW type sort of way, and not in a Bolshevik type of way as Brent Cooper does. Essentially, like he wants to send everyone to the gulag. So, so he was joining, and it changed the tone, because he was there,
Yeah, it was awkward. The hybrid approach doesn't really work that well.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Okay. So,
but you came out. You came out for that. You were like, you live in Colorado. You came out for that event?
No.
You just happened to be in town?
I just happened to be in town.
All right.
For a few weeks. And, Bruce is a friend of mine.
Yeah, all right. But most of the time you live in Colorado or you live in some sort of bunker somewhere?
At the moment, yeah, I'm in a bunker in Colorado. Right. Galt's Gulch.
Have you joined the Wilbur cult? Is that because that's based there, right?
I don't know.
Is that why you moved to Colorado? To be closer to the Wilbur cult?
No. Oh. Not at all. I can't say I had good reasons or any reasons really to move here.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to get away from the Bay.
Yeah, I guess so. I live in San Francisco. I live in Folsom, which is, a little ways from there, a couple hours away.
Yeah.
We still got our problems here, though. Like what? For example, like in Sacramento, lots of
people are too white or something.
Yeah, lots of homelessness, and I don't know. You still got lots of homelessness. Things are still really expensive. There were still riots last year in a lot of cities, including Sacramento and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're writing a book?
Yeah. Yeah, the book is essentially a lot of the stuff we've been talking about. It's also supposed to go along with a course to train community leaders to promote better sense making, better inner and outer sense making, among their members, and to promote civic engagement and scientific literacy, and also embracing things like authentic relating and nonviolent communication. So rolling a lot of that stuff up together. There's already organizations that are doing stuff like that, but I kind of saw that the ones that are out there didn't seem to be embracing, integral and metamodernism hardly at all.
So you're incorporating like authentic relating?
No, it's just like that's an.
Are you into that?
Yeah, sort of like the circling. So that's one of the things that would be incorporated into the training plans that we have. So we want to do like where we would train community leaders and also have a consulting where we would show them how to implement it by starting with groups, meetings that don't even necessarily involve anything other than like it could start from book clubs or film clubs or discussions on, current events. And you would actually have a way to work in some of these ideas, and some of these meeting groups, some of the people would be more interested in certain things than others, but there would be like, ways in which they would overlap with each other sort of. And some of it would also involve like hiking groups. You go on little hikes and you talk about stuff, and it works in like this notion of Bildung. That's the thing. It's a word we're trying to promote. Bildung. You heard the word?
I've heard the word.
Yeah. So it's
self-cultivation.
Yeah, lifelong learning and community development all working hand in hand. So a lot of it's based on the Nordic model for this, and we figure in the U.S. we could implement it with, as I was saying, a lot of these meeting groups that would usually be in person, but maybe also virtual, led by community leaders who would then be able to leverage some aspects of integral theory, metamodernism, and work that into the conversation, and also like nonviolent communication, that's the idea, there's quite a bit there, but like, again, these pieces were developed by other people. They just need to come together. It's like building a puzzle and implementing it on the ground. Right. And
so have you actually done like circling?
Oh yeah. So I've done that with them, with the circling community and other like in the Stoa and stuff. And I'm not sure how much of this we would like implement, or exactly how we would implement it. The one thing that I have a lot more experience doing are leading meeting groups to talk about current events and like getting into philosophy and like having a way in which we can talk about any kind of issues without getting hostile, and also starting from like things that start from things that are entertaining to people, but also connect to their practical life. Like we're going to talk about books or films, and then you can use that sort of artistic ideas to develop a greater awareness, And so I've had a lot of experience for years doing those groups.
So a lot of this stuff has to do with like developing social cohesion.
Yeah.
And a critique of the integral community frequently is that, okay, it facilitates social cohesion, but not task cohesion. So people don't have a shared goal that they're working towards.
Yeah, so that's, I think, where we would embrace more metamodernism, where they actually have a way of connecting it to practical application more so. It's about focus. How many aspects of integral theory are you focused on? And we were going to like de-emphasize the sort of like, oh, we're going to develop ourselves spiritually so much. We're going to like, okay, we're not really going to emphasize that quite so much because that's doesn't really, address the practical challenges that people have here. So that's why it's a little more.
So how is it more practical?
What's that?
How is it more practical? Metamodernism.
Yeah, because it gets into addressing the political and economic challenges that people are facing. They can leverage these ideas to actually improve their life.
So what does it do? Give them new politics to believe in? How is that not social cohesion?
Yeah, so like there's a local and also world-centric approach simultaneously. It's cosmo-local. And there are different cultural codes that can be simultaneously embraced, including the way the indigenous people do. They like kind of live off the land, and they have like this connection to nature. And then there's the traditional way where there's like more of a hierarchy, and we just like have these rituals in life. There's the modern, which is based on progress and developing more, understanding nature more. And the postmodern, which is giving everybody, being mindful of people's rights and feelings and the history of oppression. Like we can actually integrate these. We can develop a more integrative culture that has aspects of each of these. So that's going to involve, when people embrace these projects, they would probably get more starting with smaller groups at a local level, that where they would be, growing things in addition to having, these meetings with people and talking more so rather than sitting at their computer all the time. And this sort of multifaceted embrace of life would improve people's lives, improve their communities,
Okay. So you say phenomenology. I like this. It needs to be central to the quest to avoid conflict because it has a proven track record in small scale conflict resolution.
Yeah.
How does it do that?
Well, that's the theory of Carl Rogers was the first one for psychotherapist to embrace phenomenology in family therapy and group therapy. So what if we could, scale that up essentially? So it's already works. There's already a lot of.
So we're talking about therapizing.
Yeah,
relationships.
It's like community therapy and society therapy.
Interesting. So are we talking about, so phenomenology tends to be like an individual interior thing.
Yeah, except that I think that, just to get into the terminology of integral theory, they might have a more narrow notion of what I would consider phenomenology if they're talking about, upper left or the interior singular, as being phenomenology, because there's versions of phenomenology that are also like, you can think of hermeneutics or the interpretation of people within a social sphere as being a type of phenomenology as well. So that's what I mean. I mean, like phenomenology and hermeneutics at the same time. It's a lot of syllables if I were to say that,
Right. I hear you. So so then you're saying that hermeneutics is like a form of phenomenology.
Yeah. So based on the terminology that I'm going with. How? Because it is within integral theory, that's the lower left. That is the collective or plural of the interior. So you are, when you interact with people that have that we space, you're drawing from your own intuitive understanding of inner experience and using that as a key to grasping other people. There are similarities and differences constantly happening, but there's those similarities that provide the capability for the we space and the relating. So hermeneutics and phenomenology are inherently interrelated, as one of my favorite philosophers, Paul Ricoeur, had said.
Who?
Paul Ricoeur.
Who's that?
Dude, read the fucking book.
What book?
I don't know.
How do you spell it?
It's this is one of those weird words, that last names that has an O and an E together. Like it's a letter we don't really have in English.
Ricoeur.
Yeah.
O-E. O-E.
Yeah.
It's kind of like my name.
Yeah. Is that
it's
your
like
real
two
last
letters
name?
Collided and.
Is that your real last name, Eon? It's not, is it?
No.
Yeah. All right.
It's a homophone. It's a homophone of my middle name.
Oh, okay. Some people are wondering if my last name is real because I'm trying to promote Nordic ideas here in the U.S. And I just started with the prefix Nor, and then took like the suffix from the name Kierkegaard, which is he's a notable philosopher. So I'll just admit it's a made up name.
So what do you like about Paul Ricoeur?
So like it's about relating, and also there's a lot of philosophers that I like. I don't want to get too much into any one of them because I'll have to admit that there's people who would just school the shit out of me on that. So I'm learning. you know?
You're still learning.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So you have a worldview quiz,
Yeah.
or is it someone else's worldview quiz?
Oh, it's not mine. Yeah. So it's Annick de Witt.
Worldview journeys.
Yeah.
What's this about?
Well, so what Annick did was she kind of took spiral dynamics, but oriented, took like the top four, or actually just like the traditional, modern, postmodern, and then she generalized between integral and metamodernism. She calls that integrative, and orients these as not just like stages, like, oh, you're above or below. They're just different ways in which you could be within the world, right? So I thought it's a really types, yeah, worldview types or categories.
Everybody's doing the type stage.
Well, so for the way she frames it is, it's not a stage, though. Now, I think that ultimately it is. But when you have people take this test, and then they can kind of see a little better where, especially if they're maybe in the traditional or modern, they can at least get a grasp of what the other worldview types are, and it help them then to kind of recognize what other people's values are, and then help scaffold them to. I think the aim is still, admittedly, it's like kind of a backdoor way of trying to bring people up to integrative type of thinking. And
she talks about Bildung.
Yeah.
Whole person development.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now we got Aquil. Okay. So she's saving the world.
Yeah. You should maybe bring her on your show. I don't know. I haven't actually heard her on like any podcast so far, but she does those worldview journeys, cafe discussions. I haven't participated in a few months. I'm in a lot of fan clubs. I'm in her fan club, but also in all other, fan clubs, and they have these, meetings, and we can't join them all,
Okay. Cool. So what else you got?
What else do I got?
Yeah.
I don't know. We haven't really got into like really inflammatory stuff yet. Do you want to do that?
Okay. So how racist are you?
Gosh, I'm not racist.
You look racist.
Well, that's
you're white, you're male.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll have to admit that there's hidden prejudices that everybody seems to have. It's really, I think, annoying though for what's been going on in like recent years, is where some people want to reduce all problems in the world, and his legacy of people being oppressed to just racism. It's there's a lot more to it than that, and I think these people are just they're being superficial, and they're being racist. Like fucking Robin DiAngelo is probably more racist than most people, and like
I think she admits
reducing everything. Then what the fuck is
she confesses her racism? Yeah. Have you done that yet?
I'm doing that kind of right now. It's like saying that there are different, but there's a lot of other things that I'm sure that I tend to think in terms of like, you just have hidden prejudices or biases that you're not really aware of, and you tend to think that everybody is like you in your culture, but there's a lot more to it than race, and I think, if anything, one of the biggest things that these people who want to foreground racism so much, dude, you are fucking privileged because you're an American. Okay, there are people out there in other parts of the world of all races who are poor as fuck and are struggling to survive in this world. So by saying people of whatever race in the U.S. are oppressed, you guys are all in this country. You don't know what real oppression is. You don't know what it is to not have food, or just not have clean drinking water. Well, maybe they kind of do, but just not as much. I mean, Jesus, fuck, right?
Yeah. Whenever I hear them talking about the 1%, I'm just like, you are the 1% in the world.
Well, I think that's actually a concern for me, is that there are some people who are extremely wealthy. And it seems to me what they can do is they can use some of their excess money, which is a lot, to brainwash people, you know, with
Yeah.
Fox News and shit like that, you know? And
Right.
I'm not saying that like that. Now, when I criticize some media outlets as being more biased and making and doing worse sense making than others, that doesn't mean that my sources are 100% accurate and that I know the absolute and full truth from the Washington Post and the New York Times,
Is that what you read?
and among others, you know. There's a lot of
Are you
outlets
left leaning?
NPR, yeah, you know, I'm a little bit of a lefty. It kind of pisses me off sometimes, those sources, because they've been getting increasingly woke in recent years, you know, like
I've heard.
they have a lot of headlines that really foreground the race thing, you know, or they want to report on, you know, someone was in public and they didn't have a mask on, right?
Right. Yeah. Although it seems like the times are shifting somewhat, a little bit. You know, they've got John McWhorter on there.
Yeah, you know,
Pissing
you're
off the
right.
woke.
Things have been, you know, so I don't think that that's another thing. I don't want to foreground the whole wokeness versus PC, and versus that's kind of a thing from last year. The culture is changing. That doesn't seem to be the
Yeah,
biggest
wokeness is so
fight.
last year.
Yeah.
What's next year?
I don't know. One thing I can say is that, you know, with the last year's presidential election, everyone was obsessed about blah, 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 Trump versus whatever. I'm glad we turned the corner on that. Although I foresaw that Joe Biden would not be able to do anything really, you know, visionary or constructive or anything because he's suffering from cognitive decline. Kamala Harris seems to be driven more so by SJW concerns than before by people's actual livelihood, because I think she's a low complexity thinker. So those are the people who are in charge, you know, or whoever is behind the scenes. They got, you know, their little you know, cadre of whatever, you know, in the White House. They're the ones who are actually running the scenes. I don't know who exactly that is, but I'm pretty sure it's not Biden, because I don't think he's on top of things mentally speaking, you know. So right now we have kind of a little bit of a lull, or like a eye of the storm, but I think shit's going down, you know, in the near future. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but we're gonna see, right?
Going down.
Yeah.
Did you say we've moved past all the Trumpy stuff?
For now, I think so.
I mean,
That
I
isn't
read
the
that Liz
foreground. It
Cheney,
isn't salient right now in
the
the news
Wyoming
cycle.
GOP kicked out Liz Cheney.
Yeah. So one thing
So
like
she's
this.
just getting punished for
Yeah.
speaking the truth about the election.
Yeah. So one thing that's been kind of going on with like next year's senatorial election is that there's some prominent Republicans who are running who have had a history of you know, domestic violence allegedly, and then they also, like, one of the rallying cries is that you have to say that last year's election was rigged. So that's like so I think this is going to come down to like it's going to almost blow up into a civil war, because you know, the some people have got to the point where they don't believe in elections. They don't believe that elections are legitimate unless they win, you know. So but I'll just say that what we actually have to do, here's what's going to have to happen. We need to rewrite the freaking Constitution. The way it's written, with the Electoral College and with the Senate, you know, like we're personifying states. Like West Virginia has as much right as California. Yeah, their people are overrepresented in the Senate people in California like me, we have far less senatorial representation, you know, and this electoral college gives more power to some states than others. You know, history
That's
is
what
full.
the House is for.
The House is for what, passing bills that go nowhere because because the Senate essentially says no, because they're run by the far more representation to conservatives than anybody else on the political spectrum. You know, that's what the House is for. No, well, so history is full of examples of power sharing agreements where they give some power more to other people, some sort of distribution of power for a purpose that makes sense at the time, but later, especially centuries later, makes no sense. And that's what we have here. You know, if we don't rebalance it so that it is more based on the voters, representing the voters equally across whatever state, regardless of where they live, then things are just not going to work. The government is not responsive to the people's needs and desires. It gives far more representation to like a rural people who are an increasingly small share of the electorate, you know? So you can say, well, they have their rights. Well, you need to rebalance that. You need to figure out, have like maybe probably a constitutional convention that would try to guarantee certain rights that they want. Like we want to keep our guns or whatever. And then, but then still have, you know, representational rights for people on the basis of, you know, just being an American citizen. That's what they probably need to do.
Wouldn't then just like California and New York just win every election?
No, because you have places like Texas and Florida. That's a huge amount of the population and growing. You know, in fact, Texas and Florida are underrepresented in the state, in the Senate, and also in the Electoral College. So I would think those people would be on board with this. Like you get small states like, again, West Virginia with their narrow coal miner interests or whatever the fuck, you know, or North Dakota, you know, or Idaho.
A little bit of elitism sneaking in there.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know, if those people in West Virginia want to be join the 21st century, what they can do is they can go back to school or something. I don't know.
I don't know if you're going to be able to sell them on your Enlightened Worldview now.
You know, I guess it's not going to be that easy to reach everyone right away. But I know that there's just about no way to convey any of these ideas to people without making them hostile or suspicious. I mean, I'd have to go there with a Bible in hand and talk about how much I love Trump, and in order for them to even start a conversation with me. Or I can try to talk a little bit of, you know, truth to power here, or just try to shake them out of their old way of thinking a little bit, and maybe they'll be a little hostile to me. But there's a lot of worse hostile voices out there. These people might say, oh, we're gonna, you know, like fuck Antifa. I agree with that. Like fuck all the violence and the craziness that's out there and the riots. But in order to avoid that, you actually have to change. You embrace some sort of change going forward. If the more that the conservatives dig in their heels and refuse any change or run someone like Trump again and again, things are going to blow up sooner or later. So if you want to avoid that, then they actually need to have some sort of change.
But didn't they elect Trump because of things were being blown up?
I don't know. So I mean, honestly, with regard to that guy, I don't think that he was ever really, in my opinion, legitimate in the first place. I don't even respect the Electoral College as legitimate. I don't submit to it. I recognize whoever gets the most votes overall, popular vote, where every voter counts just as much as any other. That is what I recognize and acknowledge as legitimate. And sooner or later, if we don't get that, if the people, and I'm not saying I'm the one who's going to be violent, I am not. Just that I think that some people will, and we need to rebalance the situation to respect people's voting rights. Otherwise, they will. And I'm not condoning that. I just think, if we want to avoid that disaster, well, there's a peaceful way to go about this.
Yeah, I don't know enough about this subject to
So
take
you've
a
been
position.
focusing on the gay frogs a lot, right? So you've been
ecofeminism is my
like I said, I wasn't really focused on that side of things, but I have been focused on political reform and community development and people's
useless stuff.
Yeah, I know. And you've been focused on
not just frogs. I'm hoping we can have like gay salamanders and gay lizards and maybe some gay snakes.
There's probably a place for all of that within.
Instead of going, they go
within a
within that super
within a
snake
diverse gender expression of the ecosystem. I'm sure there's a place for that.
That's what we need. We need more gender representation in the ecosystem. Well, all right, man. I think that's it for today.
Really? So we didn't. Aren't there more bombs we can throw or something? I thought you were trying to get canceled.
I can't really think of anything
from YouTube.
Yeah, we've already said plenty. We used the N-word countless times.
Yeah. I think we did pretty good. Yeah.
Congratulations.
I got to run anyways. I got another event. Yeah.
Okay.
And I hope that you ride out the apocalypse in your bunker there.
Thank you, man. I wish you luck saving the world.
Yeah. And again, it's more of a collective effort, but I'm not trying to put myself as a savior, I
don't know. Is it a collective effort?
Yeah. If you look at that, my website.
I did look at your team page, and it seemed like it was you plus a couple other people.
Yeah.
And they mostly did website stuff. And
yeah.
So it really is just.
Well, the idea was I wanted to get more collective action with this. And then there was these people were contributing and other people were contributing and stuff, but I couldn't get them to continue to contribute unless I paid them. So it was
imagine that. Which brings it back to task cohesion and the necessity of learning to be self-sustaining and all that stuff.
Yeah, I got pretty soon. I'm going to fire off an email to one of those people on that team page to say, I will pay you X amount to do this for this project here. So it's still going. We're supposed to be, we're all in this together and we're all volunteering and we're going to make the world a better place. And it's only if Brandon can afford it to pay you for your labor.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
You need money.
I suppose so.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, thank you.
Look forward to your impending cancellation.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Good day, mate.